Hello and welcome to the first Reservoir Red Dogs episode of this season. It's a pleasure to be back. Paul, how was your summer?
Summer was okay, broke my foot. Had some time in Scotland.
Do anything up there? See anything while you're up there?
A
few hills.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of hills in Scotland, a lot of social hills.
Yeah, it was all right.
Nothing cultural? Didn't see any stand-up comedy or anything like that?
I was just about to say, you teamed me up. So, yeah, when in Scotland, I went over to see your show, which I have to say was excellent.
Cheers, mate. We had a
Not
good
just
laugh,
because we're
didn't
friends. We did have a good laugh, yeah. And like I said earlier, the pizza was the best part about it. They do great pizzas up at the Edinburgh Fringe.
They do. Obviously, the thing that I think probably annoys you a bit is after I've had a couple, I start telling everyone that you played for Forest, even in pubs in Edinburgh.
Yeah, and the people just, like people in Nottingham, just haven't got a clue.
Well, the first episode is an appropriate number because today's guest made over 300 appearances for the Reds and will be remembered for his amazing penalty heroics in the 1991 FA Cup final, the 1995 FA Cup fifth round replay, and for being the only ever keeper in history to save a Matt Le Tissier penalty, Forest legend Mark Crossley. Mark, welcome to the show.
Afternoon, pleasure to be here.
You are someone that's arguably, I think, possibly the most requested guest.
Really?
And certainly the guest that we've had by far the most emails for.
Okay, that's nice to know. Yeah.
Well, we haven't read the emails yet.
All right.
You certainly have. You certainly, loved by Forest fans.
Yeah, I always had a good reputation. I had a sticky start, thrown in the team at a young age. Basically, because there were three other keepers ahead of me, and none of them were fit, so I had to play. There was no one else.
So that was Hans Sagers, Paul Crichton, and Steve Sutton.
That's right. Yeah.
Back in 1987.
Yeah, I think I made my. It's right that year. I made my debut in '88, October the 26th, '88. I think it was.
And how old were you?
I was 18 or 19.
Wow. Oh my word!
Yeah.
They're
18.
so young at that level as well.
It is. Well, I was
For
living
a keeper as well, because keepers were older back then, weren't they?
Yeah, but like I say, there was no one else available.
That'll do it.
Now, what had happened was Sutty had gone down during the day with a virus, and it was a night game against Liverpool. Steve Sutton, and there wasn't a chance to get anybody on loan. I think Hansi Seegers was out on loan at Wimbledon at the time, and Paul Crichton was injured. So there was only me left.
Yeah.
So it was short notice, and I remember the gaffer rang my old man and said, "Get yourself down to the game tonight. Mark's playing. But whatever you do, don't tell him, because he'll himself." So, because he was such a brilliant manager, I was in the digs on Collick Road. There was 10 of us living in digs. I think you lived in Nottingham, Mecca, didn't you?
I was in Notts, yeah.
So we were living in digs, and we just, at 5:30, we used to walk round past the fish and chip shop, because it's quite well known I had fish and chips. Ended up being my pre-match meal that day. That was about 5:30. You used to get to the ground, and then Liam O'Kane would give us little jobs to do. My job that day was to make sure that the central heating in the away team dressing room was turned up full blast. Because apparently it dehydrated the opposition and it gave you a better chance of winning. So I did that, and then at 7:00, I was just in the boot room cleaning the boots. I think I was looking after Ian Boyer actually at the time and cleaning his boots up. And Clough shouted me, "House." Now I thought, well, I know he calls me house. He don't call anybody else it, so I better see what he wants. And he said to me, "Get your boots on, get your gloves on. You're playing." And I thought it was a wind-up, you know what I mean? I didn't know that Sutty had actually gone down with a virus during the day.
And did you tell him, "I've just had fish and chips"?
Well, of course not. I didn't have time to do anything. And 45 minutes to get ready for the game. That was the brilliance behind the man management. The skill of it was, don't tell him, don't let him know. Just let him get out there and play.
Yes, because you'd been worrying all day, I presume.
You would have been, yeah, obviously, especially with the front line of Beardsley, Barnes and Rush coming up against you. You know what I mean? So anyway, we won the game 2-1. So I can't remember anything that happened in the game.
Do you remember anything about walking out the pitch for the first time or anything like that?
Brian Rice, we didn't have no goalie coaches back then. Brian Rice said to me, "Come on, Norm, I'll take you out on the pitch and I'll volley a few balls at you to get you warmed up." First two went through my hands. I could hear the moans and groans of the Trent end at the back there. But then as it settled down a little bit, things went... And I was always a good kicker of the ball, so I thought anytime the ball comes near me, just kick it as far as you can. You know what I mean? And anyway, we won the game 2-1 anyway, but like what went on from that was absolutely bizarre. It was brilliant how I was treated. After the game, he took me. You don't mind me telling you the whole story, do you?
Oh, no, we
for
want
it.
the whole
What
story.
we're here for.
After the game, the gaffer comes in the dressing room and he asked me to follow him to the referee's room, which I did. And he knocked on the door and we went in the referee's room. And he said, "I'd like the match ball for the house from Barnsley." To the referee. So the referee says, "I can't give you the ball, Mr. Clough. He's not scored our trick." So the gaffer nicked the ball out of his hand, gave it to me, and he said, "Quick with that ball." So I ran off with the ball. I got the match ball. I still got it to this day. And what you do is you get it signed by all your teammates on the night. So I got the ball signed by all the teammates. He comes back in the room then, and he said to me, "Go and knock on their door and ask if they'll sign it as well." Now we've just beat Liverpool 2-1. And he's telling me to go and ask Kenny Dalglish if they'll sign this
for
ball.
you already.
So I thought, what do you do? So I set off walking down the corridor with the ball, thinking, I'll get halfway down. And when I get halfway down, I'll just turn back and just say, he refused to sign it. As I turn round halfway down, "Knock on the door, house," he said, "knock on the door." The gaffer's watching me walking down the corridor. But to be fair to Kenny Dalglish, he was brilliant. He knew why I was there. I knocked on the door and he got me in, and he let me get the ball signed by all the Liverpool players as well. And because he knew I'd made my debut, you see, which was I thought was class. And
Have you still got the ball?
Still have the ball, yeah. I mean, the signatures are very faint and all that. I can just about make them out, but
I mean, the signatures aren't the point, I suppose, are they? Really, it's just
No.
the ball itself is the artifact. Have you got it on display anywhere in your house?
same as any other player, it's in the loft.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's in the loft.
He
But-
hates it. He hates it.
I think
But
you
I
should
do-
have that as a centrepiece in your living room.
Well, maybe. I should
Like
do.
on a
I should do, really.
plinth.
I should do, really. It was one of the Mitre Delta with a red...
amazing.
Great.
with a red...
The Red Arrows, they were the best ones. The FA Cup final ball,
No.
basically.
There are no tangos.
No.
I'm a Mitre Delta man, but I'm a boy of the 90s.
Yeah.
Of course, like what happened after that was on the Saturday we were playing Newcastle away from home, and
Oh, so it was an evening game, obviously.
so it was a Tuesday night game. This was 7:30
What,
kickoff.
and was that more special to you? In fact, I'm sure I read an interview with you years ago at the time where you said night games had a special. And as
Yeah.
a fan, I always preferred night
Yeah.
games. Was that because partly do you think you made your debut under the lights and that kind of stuck with you?
I love night games, apart from when the floodlights were low, like at Goodison. But what you could do then is if a cross come in and you missed it, you could blame the floodlights. You know what I mean? But no, I love night games. Atmosphere seems to be better to me. I don't know why. I'd much
Yeah, I
rather
totally
play at
agree.
night. Like fans, a little bit of dew on the pitch.
Yes.
Everything's zipping around, and we were a good
I think it
footballing team.
settles you a bit more as well because you get your afternoon sleep in.
You do, yeah,
and
yeah.
you are ready to go. You've got that
Yeah.
genuine buzz.
Yeah, definitely.
By 7:45. 3 o'clock in the afternoon's a weird time. It's nap time.
It is.
3 o'clock in the afternoon.
You're up, aren't you? Walk at 11, then you're ready, and the game's on top of you. But
Yeah.
a night game, I used to prefer night games.
You obviously then what you allude to after that debut is Clough's second wave, really, of incredible success of going to Wembley so often, of strong league finishes, of being part of such an amazing, exciting side the whole country was talking about again.
Yeah, he wasn't afraid to throw the kids in. Never was. And then he'd go and make signings from non-league. Look, he paid I think 10 grand for him one.
Wow.
From Runcorn and 10 grand for Gary Crosby. But what he used to do is he'd sign them, and the only way that you find out about them is if you stick them in.
Yes.
Put them in, because there's millions of kids about with all this talent and brilliant skill and athleticism, but they can't handle crossing the white line in front of 40,000.
Yeah.
And there's only one way you can find out.
Yeah.
Put them out there. That's what he did with us.
Yeah.
Put them out there. Can they handle it? Yeah, they can. He'll do for me. Then you might take you out of the team, but he knows you can come back in because you can handle the situation.
And in terms of handling the situation, did you feel nerves in the way that an ordinary person would feel nerves, or were you always quite confident be able to handle it?
No, I got nervous before every single game, because I've always been like glass half empty, not half full, really. And you think I used to think about the things that could happen, the bad things rather than the good things. And I had sticky times, really sticky times, because I was thrown in at such a young age and almost becoming ever-present at such a young age. It's bound to happen, and it did happen, and mistakes happened. But the good thing about the gaffer was if you saw a bit of talent, it'd stick with it. It'd stick with you, knowing that you would actually come through it. And I had a tough time with the fans at the start and everything, and
When
people on my back. And
tough time, like, were they chanting stuff? I mean, I was too young really at that time.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the stuff they said? Did it stick?
Of course it does. If you go home at night and if you've had a bad game and fans are chanting your name and they're on your back a little bit, especially their own supporters, then you don't sleep all weekend. So it's simple as that, really. But then you can't wait for the next game to come around to try and prove them wrong. And fans were brilliant with me. They stuck by me, and in the end, when we got to the European days and everything, I'd like to think I was one of the top 10 in the country at the time.
Oh, definitely, no question.
Yeah.
Easily.
I mean, I might be wrong in thinking this, and I'm this purely just as a fan. I always think the goalkeeper is the most psychological position on the pitch. Because you're
long periods of doing nothing.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you've got to spring to life, and you're ultimately the last line of defence and the easiest person to blame for any mistake.
It is.
And set pieces are a nightmare and all the rest of it. I just think the mental strength to be a goalkeeper, you must have to be the most mentally strong person on the pitch.
I think so, yeah. I think you have to... That's why they say that we're all mad.
Like drummers.
I think you got to be a little bit mad, to be honest.
Because you've got to run at... You're running at the tide. Everyone else is running forward.
Yeah.
To score. You're the one running against the herd.
Yeah, and it is a case of hero or villain, and obviously you look for consistency in your game as a goalkeeper, but a lot of the time you're hero or villain.
Yes.
And it's nicer to be an hero than a villain,
You're
obviously.
so brave.
But yeah, I think that's a good word. To be a goalkeeper, you got to be brave, and you've got to be a certain character of person. You've got to have a certain personality to be able to do it.
I remember that gash you got in your head.
Or lack all of it in the sense that you just
be
you just
bonkers.
balmy. Yeah,
You don't realise the
You
threat.
you're not clever enough to realise that.
Yeah.
threat.
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
Well, Paul words, not mine.
You were definitely one of the first ones.
Yeah.
I remember that gash you got on your head at Southend away.
Yeah.
The first game of the 93-94 season. You got that extensive bandaging.
Yeah.
I think it's a 1-1 draw. It's at Roots Hall. We go 1-0 down.
Yeah, it's
Proper.
Man.
it was.
Proper
And
footy.
We've just been relegated and basically all hell's broken loose.
it had. I quite like looking at photos actually with a bandage on. 'Cause it makes you look a little bit hard, doesn't it?
Yeah,
a little bit. Butcheresque. Yeah.
Terry Butcher, not an actual butcher.
Yeah.
Although they both ended up covered in blood, so in a way.
Yeah.
I tell you what is mad, and you said this earlier, there was no goalkeeping coach.
No, there
So
wasn't.
how do you train as a keeper back then?
You do it between yourselves, myself and Sutty, Steve Sutton and
Sweet.
Seegers and Crick and Critchy. We used to do it between ourselves, but a lot of the time, because the gaffer likes you to be good with your feet, we played five-a-side,
Yeah.
and the goalkeepers played out, and I was always really good with my feet. My A game was my distribution, so I would have been all right in today's game because you got to have it.
I can
as a
remember coming
goalkeeper.
on when they used to put me on the right wing for Stoney.
Yeah.
Stoney used to say to me, just stand out on the touchline. When you're taking
Yeah.
a goal kick,
Yeah.
stand out on that touchline. I'm like, he's never going to... because everyone goes to that side. Everyone moves to the left.
Yes, yeah.
So everyone's waiting for him to hit it down the left. And he could ping it from there to
Yeah.
my feet on the right wing.
Wow.
And I'd have 30, 40 yards to run at with the ball.
Yeah, because the left fullback would always tuck in.
Yeah,
as a safety precaution, and if the right winger went out and stood on the touchline, the left back would always think, well, I can get there.
Yeah.
But what it used to do is used to put you in a 1v1 situation with him.
I was always thinking,
So-
he's not going to hit me here. He's not going to hit me here. And then thinking, oh, he can. Me on the touchline, watching this ball come over, going, I've got to have a proper touch here.
Yeah.
I'm bringing this down from 60 yards here. I've got to have a proper touch.
You were loaned to Manchester United in 89-90, but never featured in the first team.
Yeah.
What was that like? How weird to in that period be playing under Clough and Ferguson?
I was told that I was part of a favour. Now, what the favour was, I don't know. But I'd played there in the first team earlier on in the season. I
Had
think.
Keane gone?
No.
No, he went in 92.
Oh, okay.
So I think this was 90.
Yeah.
90. I'd played there early on in the season. Again, I think Steve Sutton was injured because I wasn't a regular at the time. I was only played a few games. We got beat 1-0 and I'd done really well. And we were out the FA Cup. Manchester United was still in it. Mark Bosnich couldn't get a work permit for Manchester United. So they only had Jim Leighton and they had no cover. So I became the favour.
And in that period, are you thinking, oh, man, I'd love to sign for United, or were you missing Forest, or both?
You just did as you were told. I didn't have a choice. I was going. He told me I was going, so I was going. If it would have been Scunthorpe or Northampton, I might have had something to say about it. But
Nothing wrong with going to Northampton.
There is. Everything. Everything. Don't get me started on that. Good God.
So I actually did Manchester United ex-players dinner last year. I was speaking at the dinner and I was sat next to Fergie. And I couldn't believe how much he remembered about me.
My God.
Knew me, here's my goalie, greeted me, sat down, we had a glass of wine. He sent the bottle of red wine back that was served on the table. He ordered a £450 bottle of red wine.
Tell me you paid for it.
So, no, neither did he either. He shot off early, so we shared a glass of red wine and a good chat, and then I got up to speak, and he loved it and all that. So it was great. Yeah,
Brilliant,
great
man.
experience.
So cool.
Great experience.
And and at the time when you were there on loan, what was it like?
It was old-fashioned, in need of a revamp. We trained at the Cliff. It was very similar to Forest because at our club at Forest, the cleaning lady, the washerwoman, the woman that served in the Jubilee Club behind the bar were as important as what Stuart Pearce was.
Yeah.
And it was exactly the same at Manchester United. Alex Ferguson introduced me to the ladies that cooked your dinner. And it was like your mother serving you.
So important.
It's so important. It's so important, and you can't drift away from that, because the idea behind it is if you walk into training on a morning, and our kit man goes, "Hey, well done Saturday," no matter who tells you well done, it gives you a lift.
Yes.
It makes you feel better in any job. Well done. Appreciate what you're doing and all that, and it brings us togetherness, and that's definitely what we had at Forest.
And do you think football like that was in general, or is that because Clough and Ferguson are very similar in the sense they're proud working class men, they understand the psychology of a unit and all the rest of it?
I think the psychology of it is we didn't realise that he was a psychologist.
Yeah.
I mean, there's psychology in football now, but not really people that understand football. But when you've got a manager who knows football, knows the game inside out, knows what people like, knows what it's like to be away from home, know what it's like to not be at home with your wife and your kids and all that, the psychology behind it brings success.
And Clough, obviously, everyone who comes on, we talk to them about Clough and their personal relationship with him. You do a phenomenal impersonation of him. What was your relationship with him personally like?
It started when I signed a blank contract. And I'm sure there's many more done it. And I actually found him in the bath one morning. Me and Teddy Sheringham were injured, and you had to be in at 8:30 for treatment. And if you were in the treatment room when he walked past and he popped his head in, and you were on the treatment table, he'd lock the door and take the key and leave you there, because he said, "You're no good to me." But this morning I seen he was in the bath. So I said, "You all right, Gaffer? Get me a towel, son." So I went to get him a towel, brings it back, and he's gone. He's not in the bath, but I could see his footprints going down the corridor. There used to be a sauna halfway down.
Yeah.
So I walks down, knocks on the sauna door, he's in there, so I throw him the towel. "When's your contract up, son?" he said. I said, "End of the season." "Would you like a new one?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love one." "Come and see me Monday morning, I'll give you a new contract, son." So I couldn't wait for the Monday morning. So he goes and sees him Monday morning, and you couldn't go to him. You had to go to Carol, his secretary. She'd ring him and go, "I've got so and so to see you," and he'd either tell you to off or you'd go down. Yeah. So I said, he wants to see me about signing a new contract. So she rings him, and you can tell by the conversation he hasn't got a clue what she's on about. Anyway, I goes down, knocks on the door, and I walk in, and he's stood there, right, and he's got his rugby shirt on, green sweater, blue tracky bottoms, pair of wellies on. He's got a tennis racket in his hand, right? And he looked at me and he said, "What can I do for you, house?" I says, "Well, you've told me to come and see you about signing a new contract." So he pulls, it used to be a blue piece of paper with your wages on, how many years you were getting, but it'd be there, and then it'd get typed in and filled in once you'd agreed. He said, "Sign that." I said, "I can't sign that." "Sign it or off and play for Barnsley," he said. Right? "You've got 5 minutes." Right? So I had to go out the room, and I'm stood outside in the corridor. No mobile phones or anything then, no agents, nothing. Can't ring my old man. So I'm stood in the corridor, and he's going, 4 minutes, 4 minutes. I can hear him. 3 minutes, son, 3 minutes, son. So I go back in the room and I sign the contract. Now, I'd passed my test about 6 months earlier, and you weren't allowed to get a car unless he said, "Can't trust you," he used to say. "I'll let you know when you can have a car," right? So I was desperate for a car because I want to get home to Barnsley and back, you know what I mean? I'm sick of trains and buses and all that. So I signs the contract, blank contract. He rings me at home that night. "Thank you for agreeing to work with me for the next 4 years, son." Right? And I went, "Oh, brilliant. We've got a 4-year contract." Still don't know what money I'm getting.
what you getting.
Nothing, right? So he says, "Pick your contract up tomorrow morning, son." Right? So
Oh, man.
I goes in to the office Tuesday morning, and the woman behind, I think, can't remember who it was, give me the envelope, brown envelope with the contract in. But there were some keys in it. So I opens the contract. Anyway, give me 500 quid a week, right? 4-year deal.
And was that good back then?
Yeah, it was about the going rate for someone that's made the debut in the first team, played a few games. It was a going
fair
rate.
deal,
It was a fair deal, yeah. But the bottom of the contract, in his handwriting, it said Elizabeth's car.
Oh, no.
So his daughter's getting rid of her car. She don't want it anymore. So I've got to buy it. So I go outside. It's 6 months old. XR3i.
Oh, my
White
word.
one.
Cool.
Black convertible roof.
Yeah.
Right? So I've got that car.
Brilliant.
And he never took... He's told me I got to buy it, but he never took any money off me.
That is so cool.
And I go back to the psychology now that because I signed a blank contract, instantly, that's that trust. Straight away, I'm going to look after him. After that, it's there, isn't it? It's
That's wonderful.
Because you then trust your gaffer.
Well,
Because
exactly.
I've signed a blank contract. That's lunacy.
innit?
I've signed a blank contract. It's absolutely mental. But
Yeah.
he's looked after me.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
You know, back in that dressing room, you can tell me to do anything you want. and
You
I'll
tell
do it for you.
exactly. You tell me anything better psychological than that.
I mean, do you think he was genuinely eccentric?
Yeah.
Or he sort of understood that eccentricity works as a tool? Or maybe a bit of both? Do you think he turned it up at times because he knew it worked?
Yeah, I think even though we speak about that was the way he dealt with things psychologically, probably half the time they were probably made up.
Yes.
But instant, like, this is what I'm going to do. And whatever he did, it worked anyway. So
I think he like with a lot of genius and like with a lot of like a singer, for example, hit a golden period where everything's clashing. You've got this incredible instinct and talent for what you're doing. Then you've got the money to go and do what you go and
Yes, you've got the
work
platform
you do.
to-
You've got the platform to
achieve that.
achieve it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's this little golden period, and you can say booze or drugs are involved with stars, you know, obviously not Clough, but where it's loose. And it's loose, just loose enough where the talent is just undeniable, but you are just loose enough to genuinely, and this is the most powerful thing in life for me that I've found, when you can genuinely back it up and not give a flying beep, right? That is golden. That is usable, but more often than not, it tips over, and the what happened with Clough went and happened as what happens with a lot of rock stars, etc. But he had this golden period.
And he kind of had two golden. Well, maybe
Yeah,
he had a golden and silver period.
But
or
that
he
was his
certainly
original
able to-
talent. That was him
Yes.
going bang. Right, here's what I can do. That's that thing. Around our period, you just had this mad. Particularly, I think your early period, because when I started coming through the youth team, I was getting that back end of it, where it was all
Yeah.
petering off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think towards the end, well, you talked about, well, like we spoke about earlier in the canteen, that second era of Clough with all the Littlewoods Cups and all that kind of stuff. That to me started to look like that golden, that amazing period where it was just. This is where all the stories come from, this period.
And there's millions of them.
God,
Like him not coming on the FA Cup final when he doesn't come on in extra time and just sits on the thing.
Yes, so
it's like I like to use the word. There's certain people in certain industries that are untouchable.
Yeah.
And like you said about the rock stars, he was untouchable. And people still stop me in the street. Tell us about Cloughy.
Yeah, of course.
Tell us about, please, don't mention anybody else. Don't say, tell us about Steve McLaren or tell us about...
It's like Johnny
David
says,
Ba-
he's still box office. It's the
He is.
reason he
Oh.
made the film. He's like,
Yeah.
Clough worldwide is box office.
Oh, he is.
He was on chat shows with Muhammad Ali, holding his own. He's
He was a
prime.
crossover, yeah. He transcended football. And even now, when you introduce him to people who aren't aware of him and you show him 5 minutes, they're like, this guy is the most charismatic. And he's got it all. He looks great. He sounds great. He's funny. He's clever. And he
Quick,
succeeded.
smart.
He did what he said he was going to do. So rare in life, let alone at the top end. He's got all these things. I mean, you mentioned him not coming off the bench in the 91 Cup final to give a team talk. I mean, do you think you'd... Kind of hard to say, I suppose, with him not here, but... Do you feel that actually his presence would have helped? Actually, that you needed a bit of leadership at that point.
I don't think it surprised us that he didn't. Because what do they say? It looks good for television that the manager's in amongst things and all that. But what can he say? Because his philosophy on football was so simple anyway. You had individual job. Goalkeeper, what's your job? Keep the ball out of the net. Fullbacks, what's your job? Stop crosses, play forward if you can, pass it to somebody that can play. Wingers, get your heels on the line, go 1v1, beat them, cross the ball. That's your job. Centre forward, score me a diving header, preferably get cut while you're doing it. Get hold of the ball. Get hold of the ball. That's your job. So what's he going to say when he comes on? I know it don't look great, but he probably still believed that we were going to go on and win that game anyway. So,
and from his perspective, and obviously... I'll ask you what someone else is thinking. But as a master of psychology, is he thinking... He obviously thinks that's the best thing to do. And it looks kind of enigmatic. In a way, it's more intimidating to the opposition, maybe. They go, Cloughy doesn't even need to speak to him.
possibly was thinking that. Like,
He's just sat there. What?
yeah.
I mean, that would... Who knows? Who knows what...
It's anything to throw you off. I mean, it's age-old tactics, isn't it?
Of course.
The holding Terry Venable's hand.
Oh, I love that.
Just little things like that.
I just wish we'd won it.
It's just that edge. That
It still
little-
hurts me so much.
I mean, sometimes it doesn't
there.
work, obviously, but just those little things, and he'd do it individually with
Yeah.
people as well.
The rosette he wore that day.
World's
Yeah.
greatest granddad.
Yeah, and he's got, I think young Chris Hope was walking
That's
out
it,
the
Opie,
tunnel.
yeah.
He was just an apprentice, and Sutty wasn't playing that day, and he was walking behind me.
Gilly
so,
as well, Opie and Gilly walked down.
Yeah, so it was brilliant like that. The times that we used to pull up at away grounds and used to get all the kids and bring them in the dressing room, it was like, you never...
Kids who supported the other team.
Yeah, just bring them in.
Wow.
Come in. Come and see my captain. He'll sign you an autograph. And you imagine, I bet them kids
goodwill that
talk about
spreads.
it like they talk about it today, don't they?
Yeah.
And football taught me so much about how to respect people, manners, how to treat people. But it came from him.
And
On
that
the
goes
other
back
day.
to the respect of the people who are washing your skiddy
Exactly.
slips
Yeah.
every week, and you
Yeah.
need to respect that woman like you respect your mother, because we're a
Exactly.
team here, we're a unit, and we all go out on that pitch. And
definitely.
that's the type of person that we've said many times. I mean, people that have sat there many times, where Norm is now, have said that level of respect in the dressing room that he had for everybody was there throughout.
I mean, I feel so emotional about him. I only ever met him a couple of times as a fan.
He was raising young men as well as footballers.
Yeah,
a
it
lot
was,
of the
yeah.
time.
But he had that effect on the whole city in a way.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you experienced it directly, but even as a kid, I felt that he was a father figure to us all.
Yeah.
He was someone who demanded a standard, and you knew he was a disciplinarian, but he was also very warm and generous and all the rest of it. And he instilled in all of us, I think. I mean, I just can't imagine what it was like to sort of know him and play for him. Just on that 1991 FA Cup final, you have a personal, huge achievement in that final, in saving, being one of, at the time, only one of 2 goalkeepers to save an FA Cup final penalty, and against Gary Lineker.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about some of those other amazing penalty saves. Did you have a particular plan for penalties? Because you were so good at it.
No, nothing. Instinct. Only thing I had in my head is try to delay as much as possible. So, like, complain and say, look, the ball's not on the spot to the referee, and maybe go and have a little drink out of a drinks bottle. Or I was asthmatic, so I'd go and have a spray of the old little asthma pump before he's going to take it.
And why is that? To make the forward think
for longer.
for longer,
Yeah.
Maybe change his mind.
Yeah.
Because
forwards are a
Pressure's on
nightmare
it.
with instinct, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
They're at the back of the net when they
Yeah.
don't have to think.
Yeah. So, and Edwin van der Sar does it a lot now. And I was with Edwin at Fulham, and I spoke to him about it, that I had a really good penalty saving record. And I used to, and if you watch him, when he went on, I'm not saying that I give him the idea, but something like that sticks in his head, and he started doing the same thing.
Goalkeepers Union.
He'd put a towel in the side netting and walk over and do like this with his towel, thinking that the striker might use that towel as somewhere to aim
And the
for.
heat straining from him a bit.
Oh,
Because
that's
if he can
interesting.
pick something in the net that you can aim for,
Yeah.
so
God!
Edwin used that tactic. Didn't always go with his instinct on that, but you've got to try and work out
Of
some
course.
kind of psychological.
What do you think to Pogba
Well-
and all this kind of staggered run-up?
I'd have just tried to stand and wait as long as possible, but where my thing was to go one way, and once you go that way, go with everything.
Yes.
And then if you get beat down the middle, people always can only say to you, why didn't you stand up? Well, try standing up and it goes in the corner. They say to you, why didn't you ever go for it?
Exactly, yeah.
So
I think if you go for it, that's the best. In terms of a fan's point of view, you go, at least you...
And I don't know, you get sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't, and more times than not, I think I had 57% in the Premier League, 14 penalties against, saved 8. So I must have had good instincts. That's what I just say to myself. I don't say I studied them. And as you get older and the technology gets better, you have a little look and think, oh, he puts the ball better to that side, and then he does that side. But back then it was just go off instincts. But that FA Cup final is the only penalty save in an FA Cup final for a goalkeeper to end up on the losing side.
Oh, my.
So Petr Cech's done it since. Chelsea went on to win it, and Dave Besant won it with Liverpool.
For Wimbledon against Liverpool,
Yeah.
And what I love about that game, Italia 90 was... I was born in 1980, so Italia 90 really was the first thing that burned me into football. And the 1991 FA Cup final. So you go through these incredible things where you're crying at Italia 90, then the following summer you're crying as club and country are kind of so successful, but also, so close and so far and everything. I remembered it at the time, and I ended up buying the game on DVD about 15 years ago because it was such a big part of my life, that game, that just to watch Forest in an FA Cup final was amazing, and the kit's great.
Yeah.
And the side was amazing, and everything. It's Clough and Pearce and you and Keane. Is after you saved that penalty, you immediately just start in the players to get ready for the corner.
Yeah.
I think it's such a cool look for a keeper not to celebrate, but to immediately start telling people off.
Yeah.
I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
Because a lot of times when things like that happen, when a goalkeeper makes a great save in general play and it goes for a corner, a lot of the time you concede from the corner because concentration levels have dropped. So you have to get people in the positions where you want them to be from that corner because it's happening within the next 20 seconds. So, we're 1-0 up. I've saved the penalty. We're going to go in at half-time 1-0. But I've just saved the penalty. I don't want to concede from this corner now. I want to be the hero of the bloody day. That's being honest. I've got to get organised.
Was there any part of you after that final, or even during it, where you're like, whatever happens, I've just saved an FA Cup final penalty?
No, because we're lost.
But even on the way back, you're like, well, I did my job, lads. I mean, is there any part of you that thinks, well, people must have been saying, bloody hell, you saved the Lineker penalty, Mark?
I think after it, I've got to be honest.
I love the way
I've
you
got to
think
be
about
honest,
football. It's balmy.
I would obviously be gutted, but I'd still be like, well,
I was more thinking at the time that I was getting sent off because that year,
yes,
the
of
professional
course.
foul had just come into play.
And it's Paul Allen.
No, Lineker went through and I brought him down.
It is Lineker, sorry, yes.
So I'm looking at Roger Milford, thinking, what card is he pulling out? Because this new rule's come out.
Yeah.
Professional foul, you're off the pitch.
Do you think because he hadn't sent Gascoigne off or given him a yellow, part of him was like...
Possibly. Could have been. Because referees do that.
The following summer, Forest are in 2 cup finals, the ZDS and the Rumbelows, that you don't play in due to a breach of club rules.
Yeah.
What rules were they?
I got in trouble. I went and... The Portsmouth game, where I dropped the ball in the first minute and scored.
Yes.
The newspaper reported that I'd been out on the night before the game. Well, they lied. It was the night before the night of the game, which was still wrong. I shouldn't have been. I went to a 21st birthday party, had a drink, had another, left my car, had another. Shouldn't have. Got in an altercation with somebody. I ended up getting pushed through a chip shop window. But then it was reported that
Into the chip shop or out of the chip shop?
Into it. So
Quite handy.
Yeah.
Kebab was still warm.
Yeah, but there was a for sale sign in the window. There was no fish and chips in
Oh,
there.
got it.
But it was reported in the newspaper that
I like that you had a look.
It was reported in the newspaper that I'd actually shoved someone's head in the deep fat fryer of the chip thing, which was
Gangland.
How you do it? And what happened is the security guy come and picked me out. Now it was wrong. I shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
It was my own fault. And obviously, again, karma. What happened was I dropped the ball against Portsmouth. We get beat 1-0. I'm ashamed of the situation. I regret it to this day. It's one of my massive regrets in football that I was out on that Thursday night.
Yeah.
We was on the bus on the way back from the game. And the gaffer come up the bus and he said, someone on here is in trouble.
Oh.
And I want to know who it is before we get off the bus. So I went to Stuart Pearce and said, it's me. What should I do? He said, get down the front of the bus and tell the manager now. Now, it used to have a curtain halfway down, didn't it?
Yeah.
And the staff used to sit at the front, the players used to sit at the back. So I went down the front of the bus and I opened the curtain, and he always used to sit with his back to you like that, looking out the window at the front. And I saw him. And I opened the curtain and I stood at the other side and I just froze and I couldn't tell him. So I went back up the bus and Pearce said, did you tell him? I said, yeah, I've told him. He said, he's going to deal with it next week. So I'm thinking, how am I going to get out of this? Now the press,
Oh my God.
press are all over it. So next morning I was up at 5. I went down the local paper shop and the papers were in a bundle still outside. But the back page of the News of the World, Crossley's clanger follows night in slammer. And I haven't told the gaffer. So the phone rings that afternoon, and Des Walker was about to sign a new contract, and he'd got. I'm sure it was on the Sunday or the Monday when I had to report down that Des had just signed a new contract, and Clough had said to Des, "I've got the big idiot coming down from Barnsley. He's been in a fight. I think I'm going to sack him. What do you think I should do?"
Whoa.
So Des has gone, "Don't sack him. He's a good lad. Everybody makes mistakes. Da 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 da." Is he
The chip shop was empty.
Is he a value to? So he said, the big idiot thinks he dropped that ball at Portsmouth. This is what he said to Des. The big idiot thought he dropped that ball at Portsmouth because he was out on the Thursday night. What he doesn't realise is he dropped it because he's crap. So back to my punishment ended up being I was left out the League Cup final against Manchester
That is
United.
harsh punishment. I mean, I
It's
remember
enough
those
though,
finals.
isn't
Andy
And
Marriott
that-
was in goal.
Andy Marriott, yeah, we got
He
beat
cut
1-0.
his chin, didn't he, in the Southampton game? I think that's where Pearce gets injured in the ZDS Cup final.
That's right, yeah. So, but the other Sutty played in the other ones anyway because he played in all the
That's right.
rounds leading up to it. So
Yeah, the Simod
yeah.
and the league, the two Littlewoods Cup finals.
So what should have been 5 or 4 Wembley appearances ended up just being 1 and on the losing side. So through a bit of stupidity, really, which, as I say, I regretted doing.
You get your redemption, I suppose, in the 5th round replay against Spurs a
Yeah.
few years later, where you save 3 penalties. There's no sudden death.
No,
You save 3 out of, I think, only 4 taken against you.
yeah.
And they're all. I mean, the Sheringham one is what's great because he scores a free kick against you during the game.
Yeah.
He used to play for Forest.
Yeah.
There's still a Spurs rivalry. You know, we beat them in the League Cup semi-final the year after the Wembley final. You know, it was a simmering rivalry, Forest Spurs.
Yeah.
And that third penalty save, you know what I really remember about it is I remember you saving from Wilson, I think is the first one.
Clive Wilson.
And then I think Ian Walker saves Brian Roy.
That's right.
And Walker at the time, this is probably really harsh, and I'm sure you know him, but because of his haircut,
Yeah.
and he looked a bit sort of oily and a bit vain,
Yeah.
and he does this really sort of arrogant nod.
It was like that, Ian Walker. He
Flash.
was sure of himself and all that. I met the guy, nice guy. But
Yeah.
and it just shows what an appearance can get. But I know what you mean. He has this.
But you were more straightforward, and it was like you were the good guy. And anyway, the penalties pan out the way they pan. Rosenthal's one of the ones who you
Yeah.
say. But the Sheringham penalty save is one of I think the best penalty saves I've ever seen.
Well,
It's that final outstretch of the left hand, I think.
yeah.
It's such a good save.
It was the same as Lineker, exactly the same penalty save in the final.
Yes.
But because Teddy had been with us for a year, and again, if you watch the replay,
Yeah.
I delay him.
Oh, yeah, and he
I'm
takes
talking
quite
to-
a run up.
I'm
And
talking to him, and I said to him, Teddy, don't forget, I know where you put them.
Oh,
Great. Mate, that's brilliant.
That's something out of a Shane Meadows film.
So he gives me a little smile, and obviously takes it and saves the penalty, and then I've never run that far. in
Oh,
my life.
man, the
That's
celebration is better than any of the saves. Because
I came on in that game.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I remember.
I came on in that game.
So you in the sort of, I remember Des Little's sort of black coat flapping.
Yeah.
It's like a
just
barber
remember-
jacket.
I remember him running from one end all the way other, doing this slide, but literally just going.
Well, that's
Yeah.
because the Klinsmann slide was the celebration that everyone was doing.
It was, yeah.
I
It
just
So
thought
it's just
everyone
belly-
joined him, and I was kind of like, "Oh, what's everyone doing?" And everyone's just legging it all up towards the Forest fans. So I just kind of joined in on the back of it.
Oh, it's so joyous.
Amazing.
I remember Tim Flowers being in the studio because obviously he recorded the game and I watched it back and he was absolutely himself.
We've had Frank on the show, and he is one of the funniest people I think I've ever met.
Yeah, it's top man.
He takes you by surprise in how funny he is.
Like most of them, but he's certainly one of the ones that you thought we could just sit here for 3 hours.
Oh, he's
I
so
take him off on the after dinner circuit, you know.
I've seen, yeah.
Is he a hard impression to do?
Well, hello. Now he, what a guy, what a manager.
One of the funniest things you said in here, and I remember this more than any moment in the history of doing this podcast, was when he was saying about you that, I thought Paul got his head turned by rock and roll.
That's good as well.
And you went, and you were quite offended, not offended, but I think you took it seriously as a comment, and you said, I've just got to say, Frank, that's just not true. That's a misconception. And he went, I've got plenty of those.
Yeah.
I still think he's so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as from the outside, growing up as a fan, you're like, well, you know that Clough is charismatic and whip smart. But as a fan watching Frank Clark on telly, managing in the mid-90s, you thought he's a serious bloke. He's a very, very nice bloke. The wit never came across on telly.
No.
But obviously, behind closed doors, this really funny bloke. I mean,
Dry, isn't he?
His record was unbelievable.
oh, it's great.
Frightening.
Relegated, then obviously he took over when we got relegated,
Yeah.
and then finished third. Oh no,
Yeah.
finished second in the league.
Promoted, finished third. European quarter-finals.
Yeah, brilliant record.
I mean, that was the last time.
Didn't
Yeah.
he leave? We were 8th.
Oh, it's mad.
8th in the Premier
I know.
League when he left.
Oh, mate.
Really?
It's so
Imagine that.
mad.
Yeah, we'd all been on 150 grand a week.
God. And imagine the summer you'd have had with Wales in 2016. Johnny Owen would have made a film about you.
Oh, it's top man, Johnny, isn't
Now, we've had so many emails, Mark. We're going to try and get through
Okay.
as many, I mean, more than we've ever had. And I'm sorry to everyone who emailed. We just can't read them all out because there's so many. Rich Lilly says, hi, Mark. Remember when you lived on Edwards Lane? He
Yeah.
says, the Populars, I think it was called. I was delivering your mail and was talking to your gardener. You'd just been called up for Wales, but your passport had run out. So you went to Peterborough and paid your gardener to go with you to keep you company.
he? That's right, he drove me down. He did, yeah.
Great
Yeah.
gig for the gardener, though.
Brilliant, yeah. I can't remember his name.
Was that the place you had the snooker table?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't realise it, but it probably weren't the right place to live at the time.
Why?
I had a long drive and had some electric gates at the bottom, and I had the old-fashioned buzzer, and the kids used to press it constantly. They used to set fire. They used to set fire to the mail that was on the letterbox on the gates.
What, local kids or your kids?
Local kids.
Oh, my
local kids.
His
Yeah.
own kids.
Well, I don't know.
I used to answer the thing with the buzzer go off the house in the house, and I had a African grey parrot, right, and it used to do the buzzer in the middle of the night. Didn't it? So I used to think kids were pressing the buzzer, and I'd be walking down, and it'd be the parrot, wouldn't it? The other thing.
Young man.
Oh my God! Well, you deserve everything you get, don't you? With that,
The decorators, I had some decorators in for a week while I was away in the summer. And when I come back, the next door neighbour was looking after the parrot. And when I came back, all the parrot used to say was, Forest. Because the decorators had learnt it how to say it that much. The African grey. So I had to get rid of it. And it ended up in a gym at the bottom of Ockley there. There used to be, I don't know if it's still there.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So a guy called Brendan Wheat owned it, because he was the guy who I bought the house off. And I give it him.
wow.
Because it got on my nerves that much.
Oh, man. Rich Fenn.
I didn't see that one coming.
No,
by
I
the way.
didn't know. It's like Johnny Cash and his ostrich. Rich Fenn says, and he wonders whether you remember this. He said, my dad was playing cricket in Clifton when Big Norm turned up for a stop. He stayed and watched the game for about 10 minutes when my dad spoke to him about everything Forest. Me and my brother got his autograph. I was in complete awe as a young goalkeeper, but didn't really say much, just shoved the pen and paper at him and run off with my football. I'm very doubtful he will remember it, as it was the mid-90s. But do you remember stopping at a cricket club in Clifton for a...
No, I don't. But I did used to play cricket for Ed Walton midweek, so maybe that's why. I used to play midweek cricket for Ed Walton. There were a couple of mates there. Against the rules again, you weren't supposed to play another sport while you were contracted, but I liked a game of cricket, and I knew Clough liked cricket, so I knew he wouldn't be too bothered.
Mark's been in touch. He says, I'm sure a lot of people remember Mark's debut in the win against Liverpool, but I missed the game because I was busy being born on the day of the match, the 26th of October 1988. He says, apparently my due date was 2 days earlier, but my mum hadn't eaten enough curry in the build-up, which meant that my dad missed the chance to see us beat the Scousers at home. If I'm honest, I don't think he's ever forgiven me, as we both know where, and in fairness, I would rather have been. I am, however, old enough to remember that incredible day at White Hart Lane in the FA Cup. You will always be a legend in Nottingham.
My mate texted me this morning when he knew you were on and saying, do you remember when we saw him at the Clough show in Birmingham? And I was like, no, I can't remember that. And he said, yeah, we were with our girlfriends at the time, and we bumped into you. And some old woman came up and said, do you mind if I take a photograph? And you were like, my mate's text was great. He was like, so Norm's there, tucking his shirt in and not getting ready. She hands you the camera. And she stands with her daughter like that. And he said, I can't remember it, but he said, what made me think that it was definitely true? He said, you were taking a picture going, do you know how many caps I've got? I was like, that's Norm.
Oh dear, yeah, probably.
Mark, this has flown by. But we wanted to end the show. I've got a bit of a treat for you. I had a message of someone who I think it's fair to say you will always be forever linked with. And he sent us this message. I hope this is able to play through on the microphone. But it's a question from someone.
Go on.
My question for Mark is, hey Norm, do you remember the 4 penalties I put past you just as well as the one you managed to save?
Right, I've got one back.
Can you guess who
I do
it is?
remember him. Yeah, it's Tiss. Yeah,
Yeah, it's Matt Matisse. He sent that message for you.
So let me reverse that then. Now, and he scored loads past me, and loads of worldy goals as well. Now, Tiss was voted into the 100 Hall of Fame, and they had a big do for him in a theatre in Southampton. Anyway, his agent got hold of me and said, will you come down to Southampton? We're interviewing all his ex-managers. There's 1,500 people there in the theatre. And we're going to interview his managers in front of the curtain. What I didn't know is they've got a big full-size goal at the back of the stage in the theatre, which is going to be wheeled out onto the theatre at the end of the show. And he's going to get a chance to redeem himself from the penalty that I saved.
Brilliant.
Right, so at the end of the show, right, Matt, we spoke to all the managers, been a great night, but you did have one hiccup in your career. You missed a penalty, 48, you missed the one, and we've got him here tonight. And the curtains go back,
Wow.
and I'm stood in the goal with a Forest kit.
Yes!
He takes the penalty,
Yeah.
and I save it again.
Go on!
Good one, love that. Did he go in the same spot?
No, opposite side. The one thing
There's
is,
the
though,
psych.
he did have his shoes on. I'm going to say that. He had his shoes on. But a
What
great
did you have
night.
on? Full kit.
Studs.
I had the full kit. I
Shinnies.
went down the full kit, had the Forest kit on and everything. But it was great. It was a great night, and we always have a bit of banter off it. And I always like tweet him saying I'm still living off that save, and thanks for letting me save it and all that. But that end where I saved it at Southampton, is now the Dell is now an housing estate.
That's right.
And I had an email sent to me saying, could we name that street Crossley Street?
And is it?
So it's named Crossley Street.
Yes!
Wow, mate,
Yes,
that's
yes,
So, yeah,
fantastic.
brilliant. Yeah, so
We have
Yeah.
listeners all over the world. So if you live on Crossley Street in Southampton, email us
please.
RRD.
Yeah.
You would think a Forest fan bought a
1865.
house on Crossley Street, right?
At Outlook. If I was moving down south, I would buy a house
Yeah.
down there. RRD1865 at outlook.com. If you live on any street named after a Forest player, anywhere, there's got to be a
McGregor cul-de-sac.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, Mark, what a pleasure. Oh, by the way, when you did save that penalty from Matt Lettice, the one on stage, did you try your old trick of trying to slow him down and get in his head, or was it?
No, he put it down, he had his shoes on and he hit it to my left, and maybe the goal was a little bit smaller than a normal size one, but yeah, I did that. I managed to
Still.
save it. But it was just his reaction to end a brilliant night, because he had Chris Nicol, Laurie McMenemy, they were all there and they were all
Yeah.
speaking so highly of him, and then
What a
at the
player.
end of the night it just made the night, and the cheer that he got at the end when he actually missed the penalty again it just rounded off a brilliant
Fantastic.
night. He's
That's
a
the way
great
it had to
he's a
be.
great guy, he's a great fella, and we have great banter about it, and we've both got the utmost respect for each other.
Mark, this has been such a pleasure.
No, it's been great.
And I
Brilliant,
hope,
man.
I mean, it feels like we've barely covered it all. I hope maybe we can get you back in the future.
yeah, of
We need to
course,
start doing
yeah, no
round
problem.
twos of everyone, don't we?
Well, definitely.
Round
I
two,
think
yeah.
you and Robbo and Clark here kind of
Keep going.
Alan Rodgers could do a
Can't
whole
have Tank
series.
back again. He'd have killed me.
Nightmare.
See you in a couple of weeks. Cheers, Mark.
Thanks a lot.
Nice one,
Cheers.
Norm.
Cheers,
Top
lads.
man.